Something changed last night, and they felt it before the sun came up. Not in a small way, not in a passing thought. It hit them like a door slamming shut in a house they thought would always stay open. Right now, as you hear this, someone who once felt sure they had more time with you is struggling to breathe through the truth they tried so hard to avoid. They can feel you slipping beyond their reach. They can feel your energy pulling back, your heart going quiet, your soul turning toward a future that no longer waits for them to catch up. And that realization is shaking them. Stay with me, because this is where everything changes. This is not about a random memory or a late-night mood. This is deeper. This is the sudden fear that rises when a person understands they may have lost the one presence that grounded them, softened them, saw through them, and still stayed. They thought your care would remain. They thought your love would keep the light on. They thought your silence meant patience. But now your silence feels different, and they know it. They know something ended. They know something moved. And for the first time, they are no longer asking if you will still be there. They are asking themselves what happens if you are gone for good. You did not need a speech to create this shift. You did not need a final message, a dramatic goodbye, or one last emotional confession. You changed in the quiet way that matters most. You got tired, you got honest, you stopped building your days around their choices. You stopped wondering if today would be the day they finally became clear, finally became brave, finally became ready. And that silent change moved through the space between you like a storm front. They felt it. They felt the moment you stopped reaching for them in your mind. They felt the moment your energy, once turned toward them with hope, turned back toward your own healing. That is what is shaking them now. You are no longer standing in the same place. You are no longer holding the same emotional posture. The version of you that kept the door cracked open just in case has started to disappear, and the person who counted on that has begun to panic. Not because you said anything harsh. Not because you fought, not because you tried to force anything, but because your peace has become real and your peace no longer depends on them. Do not skip this part, because this is exactly what they never expected. They expected pain, they expected tears, they expected reaction. What they did not expect was your calm. They are beginning to understand something most people realize too late. Being chosen by someone real is not a small thing. Being loved by someone patient is not a light thing. Being held in the heart of a person who truly sees you is not normal, common, or easy to replace. But while you were there, while your care still moved toward them, while your thoughts still made room for them every day, they treated your presence like a fixed part of their world. Not always from cruelty, not always with bad intent. Sometimes people simply get used to what comforts them. They mistake devotion for permanence. They confuse consistency with endless access. They tell themselves that the person who always understands will still understand tomorrow, next month, next year. And by the time they realize that love has limits when it is not respected, the ground has already moved. That is where they are now. They are standing in the ruins of an assumption. They thought you would always be emotionally reachable. They thought they could take their time. They thought they could drift, delay, explore, avoid, and still return to find you exactly where they left you. But you are not there anymore. The old version of you is gone, and the truth is starting to echo through every corner of their inner world. It is loud, it is uncomfortable, it is relentless, and nothing they do is quieting it. Now their mind keeps going back. Again and again. They replay words they once brushed off. They revisit moments they barely honored when they had them. They remember your softness, your restraint, your loyalty, your effort, your silence, your patience. Your eyes, your timing, the little signals they ignored because they thought there would always be another chance to respond better. This is not light nostalgia. This is obsession born from regret. This is the mind circling what the heart can no longer deny. They are trying to understand where it changed, when it changed, how it changed, and whether there is still any way back to you. But each answer leads them to the same hard truth. You did not suddenly vanish. You slowly returned to yourself. You slowly stopped feeding a bond that was draining you. You slowly stopped carrying both sides of a connection that was supposed to be shared. And because your change came from truth, not performance, they can feel the difference. It is not anger they sense. It is distance. It is dignity. It is the quiet power of someone who finally stopped begging reality to become what it refused to be. And that kind of withdrawal cuts deeper than any argument ever could. Keep listening. Because what happens inside a person at this stage is intense. They do not just miss you. They begin to feel haunted by the shape of your absence. Everywhere they go now, something brings you back. A sound, a phrase, a place, a time of day, a song that lands too close, a familiar silence that reminds them of the conversations they never finished. They compare others to you without meaning to, and the comparison is brutal. No one carries your energy. No one speaks with that same warmth. No one creates that same feeling of depth, of recognition, of being understood without performance. People may be attractive, interesting, available, easy. But easy is not the same as real, and they are learning that the hard way. Every attempt to move on feels thinner than what they had with you. Every distraction fades too fast. Every new face reveals a missing piece they did not know you had been filling. And because they once denied how important you were, the truth is arriving with even more force. It is hitting their ego from every side. They cannot outrun it with noise. They cannot bury it with activity. They cannot replace it through casual connection. What you gave touched deeper than routine attention. It reached places inside them they had never named. It made them feel known in ways that now seem rare, maybe even once in a lifetime. That is why the emptiness feels so sharp. It is not just that you are missing. It is that your absence exposes how little everything else means beside what was possible with you. And they know it now. Too late, maybe, but they know it. There is a kind of panic that comes when a person realizes the door did not slam because of anger. It closed because the person on the other side finally healed enough to stop waiting. That is the panic moving through them. If you had exploded, they could have defended themselves. If you had pleaded, they could have delayed again. If you had chased, they could have stayed in control. But your stillness has taken control away from them. Your peace has become the mirror. Your silence has become the message. And the message is simple. You are no longer available for confusion. You are no longer available for half-effort, mixed signals, emotional distance, or promises that never become action. That truth is pressing on them from the inside now. It follows them into the quiet. It shows up in the middle of ordinary moments. It reaches them when they try to sleep, when they wake up, when they look at their phone, when they wonder if you would answer, when they ask themselves whether they waited too long. And deep down, they know the answer may be yes. That is what frightens them most. Not just losing access to you, but losing the version of life they could have had if they had been honest sooner. They are no longer only grieving your presence. They are grieving their own choices. They are grieving the future they damaged with hesitation, pride, fear, and the false comfort of thinking there would always be more time. If they could speak without hiding, if they could put down the need to look strong, they would say what has been burning inside them. They would say they were wrong. Wrong to leave things unclear. Wrong to act like your heart could survive on uncertainty forever. Wrong to think your love would keep making room for them while they stayed divided, distant, or distracted. Wrong to believe they could come and go emotionally without consequence. The apology is there. So is the truth. They miss you. They need what they lost with you. They want to admit that no matter what reasons they used, no matter what story they told themselves, walking away from something real did not free them. It left them empty. It left them carrying a quiet ache they cannot explain to anyone else. They want to tell you they searched for your energy in other people and found only echoes. They want to tell you that what they once called space now feels like exile. They want to tell you that your absence has taught them more than your presence ever could, because now they know exactly what you meant. But this is where the war begins. One part of them wants to reach out. Another part of them freezes. Pride says, do not bend. Fear says, what if they do not want you anymore? Shame says, you waited too long. And still the heart keeps speaking. Still the truth keeps rising. Still your name keeps returning to the surface of their mind, like something that refuses to stay buried. This inner conflict is wearing them down. They are tired of pretending they are unaffected, tired of acting casual, tired of telling themselves that if it mattered that much, they would have done something already. Because now they are starting to see that delay was never proof it did not matter. Delay was proof they were scared. Scared to be exposed. Scared to admit what they felt. Scared to return after creating distance. Scared to risk hearing no from the one person whose yes would have meant everything. So they watch from far away. They check your pages. They look for signs. They read into your silence. They notice what you post, what you do not post, when you seem lighter, when you seem harder to reach. They ask about you indirectly. They hope for small openings. They imagine conversations they have not yet had. They build and rebuild the message in their head. then they delete it in their mind before it is ever sent. This is the stage where the pressure grows. It does not release, it builds. Because every day you continue forward, every day your energy stays turned away from them, every day you look more rooted in yourself, the cost of their silence rises. They can feel the moment approaching when staying quiet will hurt more than speaking. And when that moment hits, it changes everything. So if you have felt strange waves lately, random thoughts of them, sudden pulls in your chest, dreams that feel too vivid, moments where their energy seems close without warning, there may be more moving beneath the surface than you think. Sometimes the signs show up in simple ways. They appear online at odd hours. They watch too fast. They linger too long. Mutual people start speaking their name around you without reason. Places that should feel random start carrying their shadow. Your intuition lights up for no clear cause. A memory lands hard out of nowhere. You feel looked at even in silence. These moments do not always mean action is immediate, but they often mean pressure is building. The bond is stirring. The quiet is becoming harder for them to hold. They may try to create accidental moments, a reaction, a small excuse, a casual check-in that hides a much deeper storm. They may approach the edge several times before they finally do it for real. Because once they speak, once they admit anything true, they cannot hide behind the old version of themselves anymore. And that is what this entire process is doing. It is breaking the old version. It is exposing what fear built and what truth can no longer live inside. Watch closely, because the shift from distance to movement can happen suddenly after a long silence. One message, one call, one unexpected appearance, one honest sentence after months of pretending nothing mattered. But hear this clearly, because this matters more than any return. Their awakening is not your job. Their timing is not your duty. Their regret is not your burden to solve. You do not have to become available again just because they finally understand what you meant. This is where your power becomes real. Not loud power, not revenge, not the cold thrill of making someone suffer because they once made you ache. Real power is quieter than that. It is the strength to stay connected to yourself no matter what they do next. It is the ability to keep your peace even if they come back shaking. It is the wisdom to know that being wanted late is not the same thing as being valued well. It is remembering that your healing did not begin so you could become available again for the same old cycle. Your healing began so you could stop abandoning yourself. So if they return, the question is not, do they miss you? The question is, have they changed? Have they become honest? Have they developed the emotional courage to hold what they once mishandled? Can they now offer effort, clarity, consistency, tenderness, accountability, and truth? Because words spoken in panic are easy. Real change is slower. Real change shows up in action, in follow-through, in patience, in the willingness to repair what ego once damaged. And if that is not there, then your answer can still be peace. Stay with me, because this next truth is important. Their realization does not erase your journey. Their fear does not reset the clock. Their longing does not automatically reopen the door. You are allowed to listen and still walk away. You are allowed to feel love and still choose yourself. You are allowed to recognize the bond and still refuse the pattern. Whether they return or remain silent, something powerful has already happened. You stopped making your life smaller to keep hope alive. You stopped pouring your best energy into waiting. You stopped treating your own heart like a waiting room for someone else's unfinished growth. That is the victory. That is the transformation. You are no longer living in maybe. You are no longer measuring your worth through their awareness. You are no longer asking them to see your value before you allow yourself to live like you have it. That shift alone changes your future. It changes what you attract, what you tolerate, what you notice, what you answer, what you walk away from, what you finally receive. This is why, even now, you are already winning. If they return changed, you get to choose from strength, not hunger. If they do not return, you still keep the self you reclaimed. You still keep the peace you built. You still keep the clarity that came when you stopped chasing uncertainty and started standing in truth. That is not a small thing. That is the kind of inner move that changes the whole direction of a life. And once that move is made, nothing can fully take you back to who you were before. Not even love, not even longing, not even the person you once would have waited forever to hear from. You have crossed a line inside yourself. You know now that your soul cannot thrive on crumbs, confusion, delays, and borrowed hope. You know what it costs to stay too long in a place where your love is not fully met. Still, the story is not finished. The tension has not built this far for nothing. Something will give. Something will reveal itself. Silence this loaded cannot last forever. Either they will break through their pride and speak from a place that is raw, truthful, and changed, or life will move them fully out of your path so you can stop looking over your shoulder for what never learned how to stay. Both outcomes carry release. Both outcomes carry truth. Both outcomes clear the way for your next chapter. If they return with real depth, with steady action, with open hands instead of excuses, with a heart willing to meet yours honestly, then a new path becomes possible, not a repeat of the old one. A new one, stronger, clearer, more equal. But if they return still split within themselves, still asking for access without offering stability, still speaking in emotion without standing in growth, then you will see it faster now. You will feel it faster now. And because you have changed, you will not need months to understand what once took you far too long. That is another form of freedom. You are no longer easy to confuse. You are no longer available for emotional smoke and mirrors. You know the difference between longing and readiness, between regret and maturity, between desire and devotion, between a person who is lonely and a person who is truly prepared to love you right. So trust what has shifted in you. Trust the calm that came after the ache. Trust the part of you that got tired and finally chose truth over fantasy. Trust the slow rebuilding of your own center, because that is what made this whole energy move in the first place. The moment you stopped chasing, something in the connection changed. The moment you turned inward and began giving yourself the care you had once reserved for them, the balance broke. They felt the loss of your attention because your attention was never small. Your love was never light. Your presence was never casual. And now that it is no longer theirs to lean on, the emptiness is speaking louder than you ever did. Let it speak. Let the silence do its work. Let truth reach them in whatever way it must. But do not step out of your healing to rescue someone from the consequences of not valuing you in time. If they are meant to return, let them return with proof in their hands and truth in their mouth. Let them cross the distance. Let them name what they broke. Let them show you what is different. And if they never do, then let that be your answer too, not because you were not enough, but because you finally understood that your life cannot be built around someone else's hesitation. You are not waiting now. You are rising. You are becoming harder to fool, easier to trust, deeper in your own power, softer with yourself, clearer in your worth, and more aligned with the love that can actually meet you. And this is the final truth. The moment you feared may have already turned into the moment that freed you. The silence that once hurt you may now be the silence that protects you. The loss you thought would break you may be the very thing that returned you to yourself. That is why this story does not end with whether they message, call, show up, confess, apologize, or finally admit the truth they buried. The deepest ending is already here. You found yourself again. You stopped shrinking to fit inside someone else's uncertainty. You stopped calling pain destiny. You stopped treating almost as enough. And because of that, what comes next will meet a different version of you, a stronger one, a clearer one, a more awake one. Yes, the pressure on them is real. Yes, the realization is growing. Yes, there is a strong chance they are much closer to the breaking point than you know. But your job is not to predict the exact moment. Your job is to remain in your truth when the moment comes. If they appear, meet the moment with open eyes. If they stay away, keep moving without bitterness. Either way, your soul keeps its victory. Either way, your path keeps unfolding. Either way, the life meant for you does not miss you. So breathe deeply. Stand still for a second and feel this. You are no longer the one left behind in the dark. You are the one carrying the light now. And anyone who wants to walk beside you from this point forward will have to meet that light honestly, fully, and without disguise.